Welcome to our podcast. Mitch, what is a number that would scare most swim school owners?
The number that scare most swim school owners is the fact that the typical swim school only has a client for 6 to 9 months, and our swim school keeps them for nearly 20 months. And we don't actually do anything wildly different from a teaching perspective. There are actually some really good teachers and really good swim schools with curriculums out there, but we have systems in place that mean that customers love us and stay for longer.
That's crazy. So you're saying that a client stays with us 2 to 3 times as long or longer than the average swim school?
Yeah, 100%.
That is a scary number.
Well, like essentially what it means is that if people are staying with us 2 to 3 times longer, our swim school is going to be 2 to 3 times bigger than other people's swim schools just because of the systems that we have in place.
Yeah, right. So how do we? You said that our teachers aren't that different in comparison to the quality or probably how good they are in comparison to some of the other swim schools. So what is the difference of why? How do we have that number and how do other people have the scary number?
So I'll take you back a few years ago when we made our first change. And the first change was that we actually made it easier to stay a customer than to leave. And that was as simple as making people decide whether they're going to re-enroll, asking them for payment, asking them for new times, changing things around on them every single 2 to 3 months. That's how you lose customers, is you change stuff. People don't like change, so don't change things.
Yeah, right. So because we used to run on terms, and at the end of every term we would ask people to re-enroll, we would ask what class time they wanted, we would ask what day they wanted, and we would ask them to tell us if they wanted to stay a client. That is the first thing that we should change, that should be changed, and that's the first biggest impact that had when we changed from doing that to being on a rolling enrolment.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So what does a rolling enrolment look like now that we're not doing it terms?
So a rolling enrolment is just an ongoing enrolment where a customer will let you know if they don't want to continue. And you need to put up friction in place that's good friction that helps people make the right decision for their children. So quite often a lot of people will decide to cancel because maybe they've perceived that they haven't seen any results when in fact their kid's 5 months through a 6-month journey of progress, and on average their kid has been moving up every 6 months, and they just feel like they've been seeing them do the same thing, but there's just a couple of little things that are getting checked off.
Yeah, right. And so by having it as an opt-out, that means that people are more likely to stay enrolled for a longer period of time.
Yeah, one of the biggest money wasters for families when it comes to swimming lessons is that they stop, start. So you're actually costing your business and families more by having to go through this whole administrative process, and kids going 2 steps forward and then 1 step back and then 2 steps forward and then 1 step back if they just keep repeating that every 6 months rather than spending the 2, 3, 4 years to go from not being able to even go underwater to being able to go all the way up to swimming 25, 50, 100 metres.
And I guess the term-based enrolment system is kind of broken in the sense that most families are busiest during the school holidays when you're asking them to reach out back to you to re-enroll.
Well, what happens is that when it comes to re-enrollment time, it's re-enrollment time for every single other sport, and a lot of other sports and activities haven't figured out that you've just got to make life easier for people, not harder. So they're trying to juggle other things, which, let's be honest, kids don't always like swimming, so it's quite often the first thing to go. People look at it as like this necessary thing that they have to do, that they know that they should do, but they're like, oh yeah, but we can always come back and we can do it again and we can get their skills there. Kids get forgotten, and that's a pretty big problem for their safety as they get into their teenage years. So when it comes to the enrolment side of things and swim schools being able to make sure that their customers get the right results, you've got to make sure that you're not competing with other things. And Mondays, that's the day that we do learn to swim, and everything else works around that. And you just have it entrenched from when they're like a 3 or 4 year old all the way up until they're 6, 7 or 8 years of age.
Yeah, right. And so if I used to run on terms and I used to run on a term basis where every single term I would ask people to re-enroll, and the way that I would take their money is I would get them to pay for the term up front. Yeah. If you're saying get rid of the term model and just run on a continuous basis, how do I do my billing now that I'm changing the way that I would normally ask?
Okay, so 2 things. First, you've got to have a software provider that can actually help you out with this. You might have to reach out for them. That's exactly what we did. We didn't know what we were doing. I read a book 3 years ago and I was like, I've got an idea. This makes sense in my head. We made a lot of mistakes through the entire process of trying to move through to it, and there's a lot of things that we have done differently to help other people in other businesses and swim schools to move to a recurring and rolling term. As far as the second side of it is, you've got to be very conscious of your cash flow. So if you're someone who does take money up front for terms, you can get to the end of the term, but let me say that again. So let's say that we're taking enrolments in September, and then our next lot of enrolments is in December. You don't want to set yourself up where you go from taking 3 months worth of revenue and you've got all your expenses and stuff that are coming through, and then end up in December and you're only taking 2 or 4 weeks worth of payment, and you can't actually make the shift because you don't have enough money. That's something that we actually had an issue with, and the way that you solve it is you actually get people to prepay the same term value, but then it's, hey, after the usual 9, 10 weeks, whatever it's going to be, it's just going to be ongoing enrolment. So you're just going to keep your same spot the whole time, and until they either move up a level or you're happy with their progress, they're just going to stay in that time.
Yeah, right. So instead of switching to a recurring model like a fortnightly or a weekly or a monthly direct debit, straight away you get people to pay like they normally would in advance, so that you're not cash poor.
Yep.
And then afterwards it just transitions as afterwards, so that it's, hey, your enrolment is continuous now.
Yeah, and typically what you'll see, or what we've seen is a better example, is that the amount of people that the amount of people that leave on a monthly basis cuts in about half.
Yeah, right. So what was our churn, and what was the amount of families leaving on average each month before we changed, and then what was it after?
Okay, so back when we first tried this, we had about 800 students. So what that means with an 11% churn rate is we were losing about 88 students per month.
Sounds
on
like a lot.
average. Now, we are, between our two sites, we've got nearly 2,000 enrolments, and we're at 5.2% churn, which means that we are losing about 104 students per month across the two sites, but we have 1,200 more students.
Yeah.
Our entire growth and our ability to raise our prices, do a better job, take on more clients, and be more systematic and consistent with our entire processes off the back of the fact that people stay for a longer period of time, and we can get them better results because of that.
So not only does it mean that your swim school and your cash flow is more consistent, it also means that your clients get more consistent results, which can help with then getting more families in, because there's the proof there that they do a good job at your swim school.
Yeah, another really key thing that a lot of people forget is the fact that when you have a lease on a pool, you're paying the entire lease year round. So you've got 52 weeks, but people only bill for 40 weeks of the year, sometimes less. And they've got these 12 weeks of dead time. No extra cost. You just got to pay the staffing, and you end up way further ahead. Plus, for the instructors and the staff that work for you, you can then create a more consistent workforce. So when we first started out, we only had 2 or 3 full-timers, and now I think we have 13 full-timers. It is ridiculous. And because of that, the instructors teach more, so they get better faster, and they enjoy it because they're constantly with the same kids, building relationships. The parents know them, they trust them more, they're more highly sought after. It's just this virtuous, brilliant cycle of everyone's getting better.
So what you're saying is that because most people do term-based enrolments, they only run lessons for 10 or 11 weeks for the 4 terms of the year. So maybe 40 to 44 weeks of the year. Yeah. But they have a pool for the entire 52 weeks.
Yeah.
What do you say, or how do we deal with families when they go, oh no, but we go away during the school holidays, we don't want to swim, that's our time where we have a break?
So completely understand, and it's awesome that they go away on holidays. But when you're talking to a parent with regards to their child's safety, do you want them to have 40 opportunities per year to learn how to swim, or 50 opportunities, or 100? And the entire reason that they want to have a break is perfectly valid. It's, hey, let's work more of the swimming in around the holidays. Let's do a couple more before, a couple more after, so that no matter what, when they go away on holidays, they're progressed a bit extra before you go away on that cruise, and then they come back and they get a little bit of a refresher. Plus, they're playing in the pool, practicing what they do in their swimming lessons.
So anchoring the time away is actually, you need to prepare for that by using your makeups beforehand, rather than what most people would think of, oh, I'll just do my makeups when I get back.
Yeah, one of the key things that we tell parents is make sure that you use makeups within 7 days. Otherwise, they pile up and you're missing the consistent learning opportunity.
How do we raise our prices without losing students?
Oh, this is a really simple one. So when it comes to raising your prices, you should be doing it because you're trying to make more money to be able to put back into the business to make the business better, or because you desperately need more profit because you're an unprofitable business. You raise your prices for new clients when you've got an acquisition system built in. You want to look after your loyal customers because if you had a heap of them leave on you, you'd end up in a lot of trouble. So what you want to do naturally is you want to make sure that you've got a reliable way of having people come in, that you have tested and know that, and then you just incrementally increase the price until you find what you feel is best fit. Typically best fit sits anywhere from 80% to 90% for gross margin. So what that means is that for 80% gross margin, it's $20 in instructor wages for every $100 in revenue. So they're taking up 20%. So there's 80% of the gross margin left over at the end.
And then obviously your current clients can't stay on the same low rate forever.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that when somebody new comes in, instead of them charging the same rate that your current clients have, you increase it slightly, right?
Yeah.
When do you increase your current client's rate?
So you should try and run your swim school, we've found, from anywhere from an 88 to 92% utilisation rate is like the sweet spot for still having room to be able to book people in and people be able to book makeup classes. When it comes to deciding on when you're going to raise your current clients' prices, well, if you're completely booked out because your acquisition system's working really well, then you need to raise the price for your current clients. And what will happen is some people will actually step back down from that. But it means that you're able to reinvest the money that you have raised the price from to make the service even better.
And what do you do when somebody's, like when you go to raise the prices for your current clients and somebody says that they can't afford the new price?
So it depends on the individual. It depends if they're completely price hunting. If you've got someone that wants that exact time slot, you may have to say, look, hey, we might not be able to help you out, but I'm more of a small country town kid. I would prefer to keep someone on and say, hey, look, if it's going to be the difference between your kid being able to do swimming lessons and not do swimming lessons for a couple of dollars, we'd prefer to keep you on.
Yeah, right. Very good. What would you say to a swim school owner that says that they have really good word of mouth and that they don't need any other marketing or acquisition channel or way of enrolling people because they get enough enrolments from word of mouth?
Well, it comes back down to the individual. Like if the individual doesn't want to grow their swim school anymore, that's fine. But if they want to grow their swim school more and they've got really good word of mouth, my question would be, why isn't it any bigger than if it's so, the word of mouth is so good? I'd put the question back on them. Like paid ads and any form of advertising is just gasoline. It just makes everything go faster. So it stimulates conversation. So if your word of mouth's good and you do ads, well, it just works better with it.
Yeah, right. And so your question back to someone would be about how quickly or how much they want their swim school to grow.
Yeah, that's it. Like your swim school will grow with word of mouth only over a 20, 30, 40-year period. But like the swim school that we operate out of has been here since 1971.
Yeah, right. That's a long time.
And there are people who grew up their entire lives here in a regional town of 100,000 people, and they didn't even know the pool existed.
Yeah, right.
So, and there's only like, there's 2 indoor pools that you can swim laps in. Ours is one of them. And they didn't even know that it existed in it. They knew that the one that was 15 minutes away from their house existed, not the one that was 5 minutes away.
Yeah, right. And so turning on our like paid marketing acquisition system then helped people not only find us, but helped our good word of mouth continue to sort of develop and grow and, like you said, put gasoline on the fire that was already there.
Yeah, like our customers love us. We've had a lot of reviews, and like any business, you also have the occasional negative one as well because something didn't line up. Let's not like lie about that at all. And advertising is just the process of making sure that people know that you exist. And the more money that you put into it, the more people that know that you exist. I got recognised at like service stations. They're like, oh my God, you're the guy from the internet that talks about swimming all the time. And that's when we were spending like $1,000 a day on ads in summer.
I think that's a great segue into talking about what ads we have found that work really well, especially when we did our summer period this year and we tested a whole bunch of different things. What worked the best from a very sort of simple standpoint as well?
When you think about ads, the direct output or outcome that you want as a consequence of the ad is that someone's going to end up enrolling in swimming lessons. So you've got to make sure that people know that you deliver swimming lessons, know where you are, and know what to do next. So it's like, there's a swim school and it's on Wagga Road, and if you'd like your kid to learn how to be a safe, strong and confident swimmer, then click the Learn More button below and you can fill out the form and then you can speak to me. That's like practically an ad word for word.
Yeah, right. And that went well in summer?
That went really well. So I think it got 20 or so like leads, a lead being when someone gives up their contact details, and the average amount of people that book in a call with us is between 60 and 70%, and of which we get those people on the phone. 1.4 children per family end up enrolling. So yeah, it was a very profitable ad, very profitable. There's like another ad as well that was as simple as, if you've got a kid and you want them to learn how to swim, but your only available night of the week is a Monday night, then click the Learn More button below because we've got Monday nights currently available.
Yeah, right. So the ads that we were putting out and that we're putting money to and traffic to were as simple as, hey, we exist, we do swimming lessons, this is where we are.
Yeah.
And hey, if you want swimming lessons and you can only do this night, we have those nights available.
Yeah, so when it comes to like creating ads, you've got to think about what's going through my potential customers' heads. So in Australia, it's very commonly known that everyone needs to learn. It's an Australian way of life. And as a consequence, people have that in the back of their head and they're like, oh shit, I really should have like enrolled my kid in swimming lessons last summer. And they see something and they're like, oh, swimming lessons, I need to do that. They just click through. It's that simple. Like, it's not hard.
So making it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And not overthinking the content that you have to put out there or that you have to make to be an ad.
Oh, like some of the ads that we ran went from 10 to 20 seconds. Like they were that simple, and it was shot on the front-facing part of an iPhone camera and then edited in CapCut. Like there was nothing crazy about it at all. And like, I think I could teach my mum, who's like 55, how to do it within like 2 hours. It'd be so easy. It's not funny. As far as making things simple though, you tap into the next part of the entire situation, which is when someone clicks the Learn More button, what do they see? So you've got to make sure that you're creating a web page, or more specifically, what we use is a funnel. And a funnel is when someone clicks on a link, they end up landing on a page where they can't go anywhere else. So it's not a website. It's got to be a funnel. And the reason that you want it to be a funnel is because the only thing for them to do is either leave the page or to fill out the form.
Yeah, right. So there's no sort of bar at the top with other pages that they could go to. There's no drop down. There's nothing like that. It's like once they're on that page, once they've clicked through from the ad, that's the only thing to do. So you can either, like you said, go away from the page and close your phone or close your Safari app, or you can go through what's on the page.
100%. And like the reason that they shouldn't have to go anywhere else is because all the information should be there. And it should be in a really easy way to digest. And you need to split test where the information needs to go to get the highest percentage of people to end up putting through their inquiry.
And so what's a split test?
So a split test is when you run a certain web page where, let's say, people typically split test the headline. So that's the first bit of big text at the top. And you run one test, and then the software will split evenly the traffic to another page as well. And you can test the two different ones. So an example for headline split test that I've run would be join 1,400 families making their children safer this summer versus join hundreds of families leaving their swim school for swim tech.
And then which one got the most clicks is the one that we then went with for a longer period of time.
And so what you do is you've got to wait to get a statistically significant amount of data, and you can use ChatGPT. You can use ChatGPT to figure out what is statistically significant.
Yes.
That's
if you
really
had three people click one and one person click the other, it's probably not statistically like relevant data.
No, you need like 50 to 100 to 200 clicks. So sometimes you've got to run these tests for like 3 months.
Yeah.
It depends on how much money you're spending on ads and the sort of volume for the area. Like there's a group of swim schools over in New York that we help out. We can run split tests within like 2 weeks because they just get so many more clicks because there's millions of people in New York versus our place. Only 100,000 people over here in small regional Albury-Wodonga.
Yes. And so then once you've sent them to a simple page that's the only page they can go to, what's the next step of making sure that the process is simple and easy for them? Because we've talked about it being a simple and easy ad that's just saying, hey, we've run swimming lessons, this is here we are, or hey, this is the day and time. They click through and they go to a simple page that they can either do something on that page or they leave. That's the only options. What's the next thing?
So when it comes to the headline, you've got to make sure that you're calling out an emotional thing that people actually want. So it could be peace of mind, it might be confidence, it might be safety, but it's going to be a feeling. Like the way that you label it has to be a feeling. And then your subheadline, it needs to be some form of post-rationalizing mechanism. And what that means is that it explains what the thing is and how it gets the person to that destination. So it's join 1,400 plus families that are choosing to make their children safer for summer this winter. And then it's SwimTech's Winter Water Safety Accelerator program takes your kid from struggling with confidence to water safe with one lesson per week. That's something I've just rattled off my head right then. But that's a general guess.
And so that headline should be eye-catching sort of first couple of words that they see when they open the page. They go, oh, okay, I'm in the right spot.
It's got to be bold and it has to resonate with what their problem is. So people typically don't have aspirational outcomes for their children as a parent. They're trying to get out of pain. And the pain is, I've got to constantly watch my child, or my child isn't safe, or they're not confident. So they're fearful of the water.
Yeah. And so then when we are looking at collecting the information from a potential parent, is that just like, do I just get their name and their phone number and their email address and maybe their kid's name? How does that form look like on the page?
So I'll throw something back at you for a second. If someone came up to you in the street and said, what's your name, what's your phone number, and what's your email, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, I'd tell them to get fucked.
And so you don't want to ask someone to marry you until you understand what's going on, until you feel understood. So the first question that you should have, and it should be in a form of a survey with like radio select, so that you're minimizing the amount of physical resistance. So that's reducing the amount of taps and clicks that it takes for someone to be able to put in their details. And what that might look like is, can you label your current situation? My child knows how to swim the strokes. Knows how to swim, but can't do the strokes. Never been in the water. I want them to learn. Has done some swimming, needs to learn the basics. Can do the basics, but struggles to swim more than 10 meters. That's an example of what you might use. You want parents to self-select with the certain categories of what they're going to be able to observe and see in their own language. So you take language from your phone calls that you have with people, and then you place it into your forms verbatim.
So the first sort of question, or the first thing that the parent's seeing, is not, can your child swim 25 meters bilateral breathing with half a goggle in the water?
Stupid.
It's, hey, can your kid do a couple of laps of the pool?
It's more label like your current situation is how I'd get them to describe it. So it's which best describes the child you're most concerned about now. And we spoke about pain before. So you want to look at what is the most painful thing. Well, it's the kid that is the least competent.
Yep.
And you want to get them to describe where they're currently at.
Yeah, right. And so that's just a couple of options, and that's the only thing they see. They don't see the rest of the form yet.
Thing they see.
Okay.
And then once they click that, then it might be, can you explain what you've tried so far? And then you get a bit of a read and an understanding of what type of parent they are, what they've done so far. So you might have one parent that's just looking for current options, another parent that's been to another swim school and wasn't happy, another parent they might have tried to teach themselves, and another one they just never even thought about lessons at all, but they want to get them in straight away.
And so this sort of survey that they're going through has two roles from what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
The first role is that the parent feels heard and understood before we grab their details, because as you said, if you walked up to someone in the middle of the street, no one's giving you details. But if you sat there and understood them first, they would. But then it helps us, or helps the person doing the enrollment call or the sales call or the setting call after, because they have all these details of where is the parent at, what do they want out of the conversation from swimming lessons, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it just makes the entire process of having a conversation with them so much better, because they feel understood. You've gone and read through everything, and it's just a seamless and beautiful interaction rather than getting someone to constantly re-explain themselves. Like, how annoying is it when you call up somewhere and you're like, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 2. okay, this is my current situation. Oh yeah, I've got to transfer you to such and such. And then they're like, okay, can you tell me what's going on? And then you got to re-explain yourself. We avoid that by having those forms so that it's really consistent the whole way through for people as an experience. It means they're more likely to enroll in swimming lessons because it's more professional.
Yeah, right.